All right, we're back with another episode, or maybe we should call it half episode of the hyper-atheist, hyper-atheistic Christianity podcast. It's kind of a long title, honestly. Maybe we should have some revisions, but it's too early to tell, right?
The moon is made of Swiss cheese, and no, I will not be redacting that statement.
Well, I suppose that could be. Man, I should we name the title of the podcast that? Actually, maybe that would be a better title. The moon is made of
Sure.
cheese. I feel like that'd be a good. Um,
Yeah.
I suppose we should
Alrighty.
we should we should intro what we're talking about so that people aren't just gonna click off immediately. We're
Okay,
talking
yeah,
about
let's
Nietzsche, a topic that no one's ever talked about before, but hopefully we'll be able to give some new
yes, I know
insights.
it's revolutionary new ground. In the same way that when your grandma cooks her chicken every Thanksgiving and says there's something new in it, when in reality she used that same secret sauce from 1969, with the only difference being it tastes
Love?
slightly weirder.
Oh, damn it! I thought it was gonna be love. Oh well.
Anyway, anyway.
Groot. Yeah, so we're talking about particularly the book Beyond Good and Evil, Aphorism 25. If anybody's reading along at home, which I'm sure you're probably not, um, this is where it's located. So if you want to like critique us or perhaps, sorry, my alarm went off. Don't know why that is. Anyways, yeah, if you want to critique our understanding or anything, just go ahead. Honestly, post it in the comments section. We love critiques. We love it when people beat us over the head with truth and knowledge and facts, which is funny enough what this aphorism is about. So, um, we should go into the start of it. We should talk about the main points, I suppose, of this aphorism, or maybe just generally, what it's relating to. What do you think it's relating to, Chris?
Um, Hyper, honestly, to quote the British news outlet, the Day Today, it's bigger than that, it's large. But to get to the point and stop me for me to get serious for a second, um, um, I think one thing we can link this aphorism to, if you're watching at home, and I hope
Maybe
you
we
are,
should
because
maybe we should talk about what like the general idea of it is about first. I'm pretty sure nobody knows what the aphorism's even about in the
oh yeah,
first
sure.
place.
Let's read it for them, shall we?
That'd be quite a long reading. Maybe we could just summarize it into a couple points,
Sure,
perhaps,
you
or
you summarize it.
all right, so the particular aphorism here is talking about martyrdom. Ooh, spooky, scary, truth. Oh, damn. And basically, it talks about how martyrdom pollutes the people who choose to take up its mantle. And however you choose to view this, which some people do view martyrdom as a very positive thing, and that's completely fine. This is effectively a critique of how martyrdom can blind people and what might be done better than being a martyr for your beliefs, perhaps, or maybe even the types of things that you can expect from martyrs or, from anybody, even personally, if you are a martyr for your beliefs, what you can expect to feel, perhaps, about this particular thing. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. And so we hear about martyrdom. Usually we hear about maybe if you're Christian or Catholic, or what am I talking about? Catholics or Christian? Um,
Ooh, don't say that too loud.
yes. Anyway, if you're a Christian, you might have heard of a martyr, as in the martyr for a faith. If you're in political discourse and we're talking about current year, there are some
Yeah.
couple people who have been called martyrs.
They've been definitely called martyrs. We can affirm that that is definitely what they have been called.
So in political discourse and religious discourse, usually it's the main thing about a martyr, the main thing, they die for something greater than themselves,
Mm.
usually an idea.
Oh yeah. Ideological masterminds carrying the mantle of
Yes,
thousands before them, perhaps.
yes. And People believe that martyrdom will validate their view
Hmm. In some
because
sense, yeah.
because in some sense, um, we need. I should probably define what sense. In the sense of what do you? Why are you laughing? I don't want to sound like Jordan Peterson, who just says in some sense and then just moves on. In what
Well,
sense, Peterson? In what sense? I'm just kidding.
we love you, Dr. Jorker Peterson. We love you.
We like we love Dr. P. P. Jordan. Anyway, we're getting too goofed off.
All right. We should probably, yeah. Let's hit it.
All right, so back to the martyr narrative. Martyrs tend to be people who believe that their beliefs are vindicated.
Mm,
Nietzsche will talk about this later in the Aphorism, but currently we're just going to leave it at their beliefs are that their truth was overlooked, now being actively suppressed because of its danger, and
mm.
now they're going to die for it, which is going to therefore validate them and their
Indeed,
idea.
indeed. It's like it's kind of a very beautiful picture if you're just to look at it like this of like a knight that's on their way to fight the dragon and they're in this suit of armor and they're vanquishing their foe. They're such a small person, but they're fighting in terms of the greater goal. They're saving people in the terms of their vanquishment of this great dragon, I guess. Only in this sense, it's more so of an ideological thing, where people take up this sword that they call truth, and they intend to, in the end, die for this belief. They intend to vanquish their ideological enemies through their death, which is a very counterintuitive concept if you really think about it, because in their dying, their belief is no longer going to be propagated by them. It's going to be left on the table. Perhaps that they feel that there is some type of moral indignation that they're entitled to by holding this truth above people's heads in a sense. Because in the fact that they're persecuted, it can be very easy to believe that because you are persecuted, it is the truth that you are in fact dying for. And I think that this is like pretty evident in the modern sense because even like I mean using a very generalized example, the people who died in the 9/11 attacks, right? Like they would have been very convinced that what they were doing was in fact martyrdom. Like they were dying for their beliefs. This is a very fulfilling thing for them. But in that sense, we can't just view fulfillment of this ideological thing through death as perhaps a vindicating process because you're not guaranteed that your belief is true, and it's actually probably not even probable that it's true in the first place because how many people have argued over truth? Like, there's been thousands, millions, probably like everybody probably who's argued for their truth over somebody else's truth. And who can we really be to look at this massive scope of people who've argued, who've died, who've lived for their truths, and say that we have something especially different, that we are deservedly looking down on people for arguing for and like holding in such a high regard as truth itself. Who has sufficiently carried this burden?
Yeah, who has sufficiently carried the burden of truth?
Mhm.
And if everyone else is wrong, then what does that make them when they die for their beliefs?
It's a very empathetic position to have because a lot of people do die for beliefs that we call incorrect. And it's like, well, that's not me, at least. Guys, I would never die for an incorrect belief.
Yes, of course. Tell that to insert famous person who died recently.
Yeah, we won't mention any names, but actually, this is I've been seeing this around a lot, and I guess we can kind of talk about this because this is a little bit modern relevance, but we don't really know if Mr. CK really died for his beliefs. I'm not quite sure what that would entail if he were to die for his beliefs. Like, I suppose we can talk about what it means to be a martyr here for a second, but in my understanding of the word martyr, we would have to be dying for a belief that we are threatened with, and you can recant, get out of it if you want. You're threatened with death unless you recant. And in a sense, we do consider people who choose to die for their belief, willingly die for their beliefs, as martyrs. Um, but not really in the same sense as if they're given the option and they just simply do not in the face of a consequence. Like I don't know if this recent happening was really a good example of that. I don't think that he was really given a choice to quote unquote recant before he was killed. And I'm not really quite sure that he was in relevance to the person who killed him, proclaiming the belief, which was the reason for his murder. It just doesn't seem quite logical to me.
We've also got to consider we also got to consider the reaction to insert famous person who died recently. Some people called him a martyr, like you said. Some people didn't care. Some people called him like basically. I'm not gonna say what they said essentially he had it coming.
Yeah, and that's honestly a really interesting thing too, because we can't really say those people are justified either. Like, if we're to look at the Colosseum, right, and we're to understand, okay, we have this scenario put in front of us. There's a Christian standing at the altar, like he's like, "No, King, I will not renounce my belief. I will be thrown to the lions, perhaps." And then he's thrown to the lions. What of the people watching who are cheering and watching this person getting torn apart by lions? Are they the ones in the right and the martyr in the wrong? Like, I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think even as an observer, if you take joy in that, that's particularly a moral action, right?
I mean, the problem we get to here is um this is kind of relevant to what we were talking about. I think one point here is that being a martyr really just it depends. Did you die for something true? What action did you take to defend it? Did you just happen to be a martyr in that sense?
Just
Um,
happening to be a martyr is a wild statement.
you just
I just
happen to
walked
be a
into
martyr.
work. I just walked into work and I was threatened at gunpoint.
It happened. People have actually tried to frame it like that recently. Um, um, of, of. I know an example of an um, alleged example, but that was proven false, and it's regarding to a MS. So we're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of went around this like the topic of the mind. I think people can kind of fill in their martyr here, I suppose, when we use these type of analogies to like talk about martyrs, and you can kind of tell whether it properly fits on to the example that you currently have. But in lieu of that, like how should we consider how this passage talks about martyrs in relation? Like how should we try and map onto it? Like it seems like in this particular aphorism, if you're reading along, there's quite a few sections here that talk about different things. Like one is particularly the warning of being a martyr and how it mars your conscience, and the second one is exactly what it is that people claim to do when they are martyrs, that is, upholding truth. And then the third is what people should do instead of being a martyr for their beliefs. The fourth would be more so who or what type of person becomes a martyr. And then finally, what is the end of this play, I suppose, that we would call martyrdom? Um, and like how do these relate to one another? Like how do we see that?
How does the end of the play go?
Oh, no, no, no. Like how do we view these things as interconnected? Like what should there ideally be, I suppose, if we were to talk about, for example, this evasion process, right? Like what is the relevance of that to the martyr proposition? Is this a good answer? Is the evasion listed here? Which we could quickly summarize if you want to like give half of it. I'll give half of it, or what you saw in it versus, just go ahead if you'd like.
Well, I mean, one line that I particularly took interest in is I'm going to connect it to my earlier point. You see what I did there? Connecting dots. See, I'm smart. Anyway, um, Nietzsche says, Nietzsche says, and I'm going to pull this up really quickly. You
Works.
will finally have to play out your role as the defenders of truth on earth as though, quote, the truth, unquote, were such a harmless and clumsy character as to require defenders.
Yes, of course.
And that and that links to my earlier point. People believe that their beliefs have to be vindicated by martyrdom, which is why narcissists try to frame themselves as martyrs. But
Oh, indeed.
the problem is, if your beliefs need to be vindicated by martyrdom and you're desperate to be a martyr, how confident are you that you're actually on the truth?
Yeah, how confident should we be is a really good question. How skeptical should we be of ourselves? Like how easily do we grab onto our certainty and say this is the truth? It's a sobering reflection looking across time and seeing how many people have been wrong and understanding how certain we feel of our correctness.
That's there's a it's not really a paradox, but I heard this from an Alex O'Connor video. There's a certain thing called the preface paradox. Have you heard of it?
Ooh, I have not actually. Give me an explanation here.
Okay, so in a preface, the author will say, if there's any mistakes in this book, they're I own up to them, they're my fault entirely.
Ooh,
And then if you showed them the text of the book, if we went paragraph by paragraph and you ask, do you think this has a mistake? He's like, no. And he says, but you're confident there is a mistake in there. He's like, oh yeah. I was like, okay, but we went through the whole book. It's like, yeah.
yeah. This is
Same
like
thing with
the
belief.
yeah, it's the thing with like the skepticism, right? So like I actually had this exact conversation, funny enough, with a from my church, and I asked him, I was like, "What do you think of your beliefs? Do you think possibly one of them could be incorrect?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay, well, which one?" And I doubt you will ever get a straight answer from somebody because you believe it. You have enough skepticism to think that possibly there could be an error. Like if you do a really long math equation, perhaps you'll be uncertain about the result, but you'll still claim it to be the result. I mean, you could say, "Oh, I might have messed up along the line there," but it's not certainty. You're not certain that you messed up. Otherwise, you wouldn't turn in your homework. You wouldn't, do all of these things that come after your conclusion, because it
Yeah.
is your conclusion.
One one way one way I've heard someone put it was to compare ourselves 1,000 years in the future, which we can't do. And he said to get an idea of how we're going to look 1,000 years from now, compare us with the humans of 1,000 years ago.
Ooh.
What do you think of them? Do you think they had it all figured out? No.
Uh,
Neither will the people of 1,000 years in the future will think that of us.
yeah, it's the stunning nature of greatness when we're posed up against just the massive layers of possibility. It's like over time, there are so many decisions made, there's so many beliefs had, there's so many people born and died, and we are just one of those people. It's like it's kind of sobering as a realization.
Oh yes. Enough to, you know, you know, you can't unsee it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's very
You can
true. I
you
think
can't unsee it.
yeah. And I think even like
And I like
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, you can go ahead. I was about to make a joke. You go ahead.
So in light of this idea that, truth is a very difficult thing to carry, like when we look at the options, like otherwise, if we're not to be so confident that we would carry truth upon our humble backs, down to our gallows, metaphorically, like this aphorism in particular actually gives us a very interesting option in order that one might evade this particular thing. And the evasion is particularly interesting because it invites us to hide the truth, in a sense, hide what we must feel to be the truth, and take solitude in that, in the fact of enjoying this private thing that is individual, it's not shared with others, and yet we are able to take joy in it because it is ours. It's taking ownership of the fact that this is our reason, perhaps not the truth, but it is our reason. And regardless of whether people accept it or not, we can still have our reason and be happy with it. I mean, whether we should use this and apply it to other people would be a very good question. But in another sense, if we're to enjoy life, we're probably not trying to force our understanding of life on everyone else. We're probably
No,
attempting to, as Nietzsche says in this passage, create our garden and surround ourselves with people who are like a garden and admire the gardens and enjoy
no,
the
no.
garden.
You know what this reminds me of?
What is it?
The life of Confucius.
Yeah, that's actually I have not read. So it,
Well, Confucius was this guy. He comes up with Confucianism.
mm,
Guess who came up with Confucianism?
um
Anyway,
Donald Trump. Oh damn it, I got it wrong.
anyway, um, yes, anyway. He goes to from state to state because this was during the Warring States period where China was basically just a bunch of warring states, as
Mm.
the title implies. And now very
Yeah, it's very subtle.
he goes there, he goes from state to state, and he keeps getting rejected from king's courts because they don't like him. And instead of becoming this selfless martyr, he retreats to a cave, gathers disciples, teaches them his doctrines, and then he dies thinking his idea was a failure.
Oh my gosh. That's beautiful. That's actually probably the most beautiful thing I've heard. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yes, and then when the Han dynasty emerges a couple hundred years later, they picked Confucianism as their state ideology and kids and their bureaucrats had to study Confucius in order to work for the government.
That's so interesting. It kind of reminds me of Nietzsche's picture of the posthumous man, the man who will only be understood after his death. Living in terms of that goal, like putting so much into your ideology. He surrounded himself with people who are like a garden, right? Like he surrounded himself with people and he gave them his ideas, he invested in them, and he didn't spend his life trying to die for his beliefs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he could have just he could have just, he could have just kept annoying the warring states until some guy got bored and be like, I don't like this dude. Should we kill him? Let's kill him. No, he didn't do
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
He didn't keep pestering people until someone inevitably got annoyed with him and then threw a spear at him. He he just retreated. He said, "Okay, I might have failed. I guess I'll just build my garden."
Yeah. And that's super interesting. Like the question I think a lot of people would probably have is whether this is like a fulfilling idea for them. Like for Confucius, it was obviously very, it seems like it was fulfilling. Perhaps like not in the idea that he died thinking his ideology was a failure, but it seems like it was the preferred option for a reason. It seems like when he
Yeah,
took the solace, there was an object that he was looking for.
and will people do it? I
Yeah.
mean, usually, to quote a few good men, "I want the truth. You can't handle the truth." That's basically what Nietzsche is kind of saying you should do.
I is he? That's a very strong judgment. You can't handle the truth. It's
I
almost
mean, like,
making a moral imperative there. You should value the truth, and I am speaking it.
he didn't. No, he should. No, it's not like in the sense of like you should. I know the truth, but I'm not going to tell you because then your tiny little mind will explode. It's more in the sense of like I know the truth, but I'm not going to tell you because I just don't want to die.
Yeah, that's kind of fair. I'd rather go on living my life than try to perpetuate an ideology that I can't even uphold the truth value of. It's like yeah, trying to lift a
Yeah.
1,000 pounds if you've been in the gym for like 7 years. You probably can't do it even though you've spent a long time there.
Yeah. Anyway, you
Yeah.
wanna do you think there's a reason for being a martyr?
Mm. That's a good question, actually. I think that there could probably be many reasons that people feel could be good for being a martyr. There's many internally satisfying things about being a martyr. For one, it gives you a very low bar, in a sense. All you have to do is have your belief, and you have to be loud about it. And in a sense, even if you're a person of very low stature, and typically martyrs are people of very low stature, except if they're political pariahs, I suppose. But I probably wouldn't consider CK a martyr. But either way, these people are typically of very low stature. Either that or their ideas are viewed as being ideas of very low stature. And the internal idea that this person, this martyr, has of their ideology is actually much higher. They view this ideology as higher than any that are around it, and morally so. They can believe that the reason that they're shouting at the top of their lungs is because they are vindicated morally. Because these are ideas. These are propositions of truth. These are propositions of maybe morality even. And when people take up this this banner, I suppose, it can be very, very compelling. I would I would see this the level of certainty that one feels after like while being in the martyrdom process is such a beautifully powerful thing to the individual. However, it's not one that ends well. And I think that if people
Yeah.
were motivated solely by the idea that they can feel very morally vindicated and perhaps they can make themselves out to be a hero, as long as they can do that, then it might be satisfying. I don't think it's right.
Yeah. I was thinking, I have a question.
Yeah, hit it.
It's a rhetorical one mostly, but I expect an answer. Would you
Ah,
die? Would you
yes.
die
Oh, damn it.
over a
Question wasn't over.
over a I don't quite know?
Oh, that's a very good question. Um,
Would you die over a I don't quite know?
hmm, that's a, hmm. Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I probably would say I don't quite know, and I'd walk away. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you think of it, dying for a belief is kind of like that. You're kind of dying. It might be certain in your head. It might be bloody obvious. It might be something you've spent quabbling in your mind over and over again for days on end. But in the marketplace of ideas, to someone else, an outside observer, they don't quite know.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of like the myth perception that a lot of martyrs get from the results of their ideas being proliferated, right? Like when you see the opposition to you, there's like this inherent, they're hating me because I'm right. They're wanting to kill me because that ceases my speech. And when it ceases my speech, I'm therefore vindicated because there must be something that they're trying to hide. There must be some inner flaw of them, in fact, that is wrong, and some great aspect of myself that is right. And
There's
that's why it's so dangerous.
there's mul there's multiple stages of lacking critical thinking. And I think the highest stage is you know I'm right, but you're not going to admit it because you have your own nefarious purposes.
Yeah, yeah, it's making a villain of the person who is persecuting you. But I feel the need to kind of clarify it's not so much that the martyr's at fault for being persecuted in this particular sense, but it is the fault of the martyr. This feels weird saying. It is the fault of the martyr when they put themselves morally above those who persecute them um, because of those particular propositions. It does not entail truth to have an idea. to propagate your belief, to talk about it, does not mean that it's true. And if somebody makes that assertion as a martyr, they're kind of doing the wrong thing. And they're kind of revealing, as Nietzsche says here, what exactly is being done. It's a spectacle. It's a show of the, the stupidity of moral indignation and the the problem internally with people who do this type of thing. It's misplaced confidence. It's dishonesty that's root.
Yeah. All goes back to, do I need to really die for my beliefs for them to be vindicated?
Yeah, probably
Really?
not. You can probably just consider them yourself, or you can tell other people about them. But you probably don't claim that they're universally true all the time, because that's a kind of high bar
Yes.
to state. I know that, like,
Yeah.
if you have any personal anecdotes, I'm like after this, I'd just like to share a short one. Like I know that when I was personally um, within a certain belief system, I had viewed the terrifying ambiguity of making a statement for anything because I looked at my understanding of things and I'm like, this is inherently subjective. I'm understanding this differently than another person, and that's because of my perspective shift. It's not because I'm right. It's because this thing can be interpreted many different ways, and I'm interpreting it one way. And that uncertainty is really what kind of kept me from being so crass with my understandings. Sorry, you can go ahead.
There was this, really, it was my time arguing online with intellectually dishonest conspiracy theorists. Those people down that pipeline tend to be very intellectually dishonest.
Yeah, true. Making an enemy of the.
And I was and I managed to identify a lot of things they did. Like, for example, when a new information popped up, instead of reconfiguring what they believed, they just ad hoc their way into all their
Mm-hmm.
way. You know?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing that
And
can
then
prove me wrong, type of thing.
yeah, and then there's, I noticed like they don't budge. That's what I noticed. And I noticed how they talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
They literally, so, and I started seeing it like in places that I went. I have this book by this prominent Islamophobe, Robert Spencer. And if you're going to say, well, he's not an Islamophobe, he's just speaking the truth about Islam. May I remind you that back in 2011, a Norwegian terrorist cited Robert Spencer several times in his manifesto he published before he went out bombing and killing over almost 100 people.
Gosh.
So anyway, don't tell me he's not an Islamophobe. Anywho, he began doing research books on the historicity of the Islamic prophet Muhammad, and he kept alleging that his opponents were intellectually dishonest and paid by the Saudis to not tell him he's wrong or whatever. I started seeing it like that. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it
And,
is kind of.
and I saw and you know, and I saw it in, like, I was watching this debate between uh people who two scientists versus two anti-vax frauds, and they're like, "Oh, we've been ostracized. We've lost our positions because big pharma doesn't like our conclusions." And I'm like, it's the same bullshit, isn't it?
Hmm. When people generalize too much like that, it honestly makes me really wonder where their causal connection is. Because people have this idea of, oh, the deep state, or oh, the government as a whole, or oh, the particular, just insert group here that doesn't believe what you believe. Um, and they are against me. And they are against me because I'm right, and they are against me because they are dishonest, and any list of reasons. Perhaps there's less or more innocuous ones, right? Like ones that you can kind of understand a little bit easier, without saying they're malicious. But regardless, the othering of those groups, like the grouping of them up into like the disagreeable, they cause this particular thing. And it's not just the person causes, it's the whole. The whole causes it. which it's that's a very harmful thing because then you can start viewing people individually like groups, which is wrong.
Yes, it is morally abhorrent. Anyway,
Yeah, that's very true.
morality is another discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna have a discussion on morality at some point. It's gonna be fun.
That's going to be very uncomfortable for me, but I'm all for it. Anywho,
Heck yeah, let's do it. But yeah, if you want to wrap up with anything, it's gone for about 35 minutes here. Wow, that's quite a little bit of a chunk of time. If you have
how much
anything,
time did we take?
35. It's wild. It's
Nothing.
good progress. But yeah, do you have any closing thoughts?
Any closing thoughts?
Yeah.
Few closing thoughts. One, Candace Owens is the only person I've ever heard to unironically say something is fake and gay without saying it as a joke. Two, um, two, I, I think that the selfless martyr narrative is the most toxic thing you can position yourself in. Me personally. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Chris, aren't you just some random podcaster who's on his second episode? And I will say to you, yes, but that's not the point. The point is, being a selfless martyr has got to be something so intellectually dishonest. If you are a selfless martyr, you don't need to tell people you're a selfless martyr. They can just see it. They can just see that your martyrdom was characterized not by yourself, but by your lack of it.
It's an interesting perspective. Yeah,
Yes, that's what I,
personally, I'm sorry. You can go ahead if you want.
yeah. This is going to get into my topics on morality, but personally, I think selfishness is the ultimate evil and selflessness is the ultimate virtue. So trying to position yourself as already at selflessness is not great. Anyway, Hyper,
Okay. Yeah, I respect that. I respect the conclusion that you came to. Personally, I come to view this as kind of like a working theory. We should be aware of these things. These things are possibly very good markers of unhealthy standards for our beliefs. Like, are we viewing these types of things in our lives as ultimately truthful? Are we trying to carry truth on our backs? Are we trying to argue towards some personal, even less than martyrdom, right? Like, let's say something like losing your job over saying something that you believe is true. Is that inherently something you're taking these morally indignant stances on, when you should be a little bit more careful about the red flags that are being thrown? Reconsider, like if you need to, and people really should be in the habit of reconsidering, um, because we are all wrong in certain areas, and whether that's relatable or not, that's it's up to the listener, I suppose. But it should be considered at the very least whether this models something that you're seeing or something that you feel that you relate with. Feeling morally above people, or feeling as if you hold truth and no one else does. Just an important consideration, I think. That's what I'll close with.
alrighty. Um, that's our episode. I hope you all had a good time listening to this. Leave us feedback in the comments. I know we were a bit too comedic at the beginning. Hope you stuck around after that. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Feel like that's taken from somewhere. But
The
yeah,
Truman
uh,
Show.
hell yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, have a great whatever time of the day you're listening. Please come back. We're doing more probably next week. So love you guys. Bye.
Love you, do. Bye.